Hello, everybody. We are back with part two of my favorite Thomas and Friends episodes. Previously, we ranked my good and great episodes. Today, we will be ranking at least my really great episodes, and I'm gonna try also do my super great episodes. Try keep this at about half an hour, much like the previous episode. So, I got my preeminent rankings on my phone again, so let's do this. So, previously we ranked Thomas Percy and the Dragon, which is at the top of great. So, now let's rank the next episode, and we are going to go to Put Upon Percy. Put Upon Percy has one of the most epic crashes of the whole TV series. It's a season 5 episode, so that kind of goes without saying. So the plot point is Percy is frustrated with his jobs. He is sent to work at a mine and he accidentally pushes some trucks too hard at the coal mine. The trucks are headed by one that has Scruffy's face on it, and it crashes into a beam inside of the mine, which causes the trucks to die, much like the trucks that died in the season 4 episode Trucks, and it creates an avalanche. So Percy has to run away to a canvas barrier to avoid getting buried by the coal, or at least damaged by the coal. But what's weird about it is that if Percy had stayed in his original position outside of the mine entrance, then he probably would have been spared by the avalanche. So, I mean, the crash itself is just so awesome. But even before Percy goes to the mine, I really like this kind of a build up to where Percy's just doing his jobs, and you really get the sense that Percy's one of the most hard-working engines on the railway by the way that they film him just doing odd jobs, picking up random pieces of cargo and delivering all of the trucks to the docks. I just think it's really kind of insightful that not only little engines can do big things, but also kind of to justify merchandise like the Thomas Wooden Railway, Hard at Work Percy, etc. I really like how we get a snapshot about Percy's life and why he does complain about certain things. And they kind of do that a lot in season 5. Percy complains about the jobs he has to do, and then something wild and crazy happens at the end. And I mean, the crash is just one of the most epic crashes in the series. So, anyway, let's move on to the next one. We're going to go to Special Funnel from season 4. This is probably one of my favorite winter, if not my favorite winter episodes from the TV series. So the plot is well, this is a railway series story. So Peter Sam is frustrated that his funnel is still broken from the one of the previous episode trucks, and he gets his new funnel but not before losing his old funnel, and it has to get replaced with a drain pipe. And the B plot is that the other engines are teasing him about it, and that one of the bridges over the rivers gets swept away. And I really like the kind of montage scene of Rusty and the workmen repairing the bridge, and kind of that spooky music that they use when engines are going through the tunnel. I just think that's a really nice touch. And also, it's really funny when Sir Handel sings his song towards the end of the episode. Peter Sam said again and again, his new funnel will put ours to shame. He went to He went through a tunnel and lost his old funnel. Now his famous new funnel's a drain. And I really like in the George Carlin dub of the episode how he kind of says drain to kind of give a kind of hillbilly voice to Sir Handel at the end. I just think it's a really funny inflection that George Carlin does. So, and then at the end of the episode, it shows that how special of a funnel um, a Peter Sam's Giesel funnel is. Although what's weird that in the TV series, it it kind of looks like all the other funnels, but in the Railway series, it's a proper squashed funnel, and just due to limitations of what they were able to do in the TV series compared to the freedom that John T. Kenny had in the Railway series illustrations. But I just really like the ensemble of all of most of the narrow gauge characters in interacting, and then they end up feeling jealous of Peter Sam at the end. It's a really nice trope. Anyway, let's get on to the next episode, and we're going to go to this is another wild and crazy episode from season 5. It's Rusty and the Boulder. So the plot of this is that there's a mysterious boulder up on one of the mountains on the Skarloey Railway, and people who design maps of the island of Sodor can never really pick a conclusive location of where this quarry is, and also where the transfer yards are, where Rusty brings the rock down to Thomas and Percy. And it's also weird that there's both standard gauge and Skarloey Railway sheds there at that transfer yards, which is different from the transfer yards that they included in later seasons. Um, the season 5 Skarloey Railway, I gotta say, has some weird locations because they ditched the Crovens Gate sheds. The Crovens Gate sheds, I guess they didn't want to rebuild it for the upscale season 5 Skarloey Railway models. Because if you notice the Skarloey Railway in season 5, they increased the scale, which is why the slate trucks got actual troublesome truck faces. And this is the episode where Rusty's face goes from small face Rusty to big face Rusty. Because even in season 5, when they have the Skarloey Railway engines interacting with the standard gauge engines, they use their season 4 models, but when it's just a shot of the Skarloey Railway, they use their season 5 models. So this is the that weird transition episode for Rusty. But then Rusty is super scared of it, and he creates a whole lore. So you you asking yourself the question: is Boulder an alive creature that doesn't like what's being done to his land, or is it just Rusty's personification of something scary he sees, and scary stuff happens because the boulder is up there. And then you get a really Indiana Jones style chase at the end, and when Boulder ends his chase, he crashes into one of the sheds at the transfer yards, and I guess there was either dynamite or TNT in that shed for rock blasting to be transferred up to the quarry. But yeah, Boulder smashes into the shed, and there's a Michael Bay excuse me, there's a Michael Bay explosion, which is is just really funny, and it's a testament to the pyrotechnics they had in season 5. Um, and also this is the episode where Thumper makes his first and only appearance. And Oliver is not in this episode, despite Oliver being in the Rusty and the Boulder Thomas Wooden Railway set, which is just a really weird thing. And also, compare this episode to Horrid Laurie, which we will rank later this episode or in part 3. Butch the tow truck actually has a face in this episode, and this marks the point in time where Butch became a very dominant background character in a lot of the seasons after this. So, I mean, the Indiana Jones chasing alone makes this a memorable episode. But probably even more memorable because it actually included some pretty damn good music is Toby and the Flood. So the plot of this is that it had been raining for weeks. Everywhere was wet, wet, wet. And so they're on a village on, I think, Toby's branch line, and Toby's sent to investigate a dam that's in bad shape. And so they report that the dam is breaking up, and then eventually the dam does break up. And while Toby's coming home to warn everyone to get to high ground, there's so much water that comes out of the broken dam, it washes Toby away while he sat on a bridge for some reason. I don't know why he just couldn't get off the bridge, but it's like his wheels were glued to the tracks on the bridge, or he was so scared, even though it would have been better for him just to get his sorry ass off of the bridge and go along with Percy. Um, uh, I mean, that was just plot convenience just to give us a really awesome episode. But yeah, Toby washes away and he's on the floodplains of the river and he almost dies. He almost falls off a waterfall. And you get that meme worthy quote where Toby's driver says, "If we go over that waterfall, we're doomed." And so Harold has to come in and save the day. He lowers a cable down so that Toby can attach it to his bridge raft, and then and then Percy pulls Toby to safety. And just the music is one of the best scores of the whole series. It's it's got a lot of weight to it, and you really feel the intensity of, oh my god, Toby could die, and he doesn't. But it's just really entertaining. It's one of the most surreal crashes, if not the most surreal crash that I can think of from the TV series. Because it's a crash that almost literally killed an engine. I mean, there have been crashes in the TV series that have killed rolling stock, like trucks, which happened in the episode Trucks, which we ranked on the previous episode. And those trucks in Haunted Henry probably also died. And so yeah, it's a it's a fan favorite, and a lot of people have had their thoughts about this really good episode. So now let's move on to kind of a more light-hearted episode. We're gonna go to Henry's Forest, and this is an episode that has some of the most beautiful foliage in the entire TV series. I'm more of a fan of the season 4 foliage, but season 3 with Henry's Forest and some other scenes like the bridge going over the waterfall had some really, really good foliage. The model makers really started to up their game in season 3. So the plot of this is that Henry finds his forest relaxing during a storm. It gets destroyed, so Henry is sent to help uh, take away the broken trees to the timber yards to have them turned into furniture and other things. All the other some of the other engines feel sad for Henry that the forest is destroyed, and then they end the episode with a replanting effort, which is really light-hearted, and eventually the forest gets back to its naturistic environment again, and Henry can enjoy it again. So a lot of people criticize this episode because it's unrealistic and it breaks Rule 55 or Rule 54, whatever it is, that engines cannot stop on main lines without alerting a signalman that they have stopped. And the Reverend Wilbert Audrey notoriously hated this episode because of its railway inaccuracy. And actually, In 2 seasons later, season 5, episode James and the Trouble with Trees actually kind of made an insight joke about Audrey's complaint about this episode because of the unrealistic nature. But I just find the light-hearted nature really wholesome, and it's a good Henry story, despite what you make about the railway inaccuracies. And I really like the conversation Toby has with the Fat Controller about how he feels sorry for Henry, and then Sir Topham Hatt gives Toby the job of transporting tree plantations to the forest for the regrowth, and then Toby proclaims that it's the best job that he's ever had. So I just find that really kind, and I don't think there's another episode of the TV series that emphasizes the importance of nature better than this. So I know that's going to be a hot take, and if anyone out there disagrees with me, feel free to let your thoughts be known in the comments down below. And the next one, these two episodes kind of have to go together, so I think I'll talk about them at the same time. The next is Sleeping Beauty, and then the one after that is Grandpuff. They kind of have to go together because it's a two-part story. So these were the first two episodes of season 4, which is kind of weird because these were in the last Skarloey Railway books that Wilbert Awdry wrote. So these episodes in the TV series came out before episodes like Trucks and Home at Last and Special Funnel. When in the Railway series, they came out over 10 years before these two stories, which were from Book 25, Duke the Lost Engine, and was originally going to be Wilbert's last book. But then I think someone pressured him into writing Book 26, Tramway Engines. And that's how we got characters like a Mavis and stories like Woolly Bear. So yeah, and also a Ghost Train, which we're going to rank later. But these two episodes probably have my most favourite of all season 4 foliage. And it's this obscure railway that you'd know nothing about otherwise. I didn't even know until I watched these episodes on YouTube years after I knew that the character of Duke even existed, that they were on a separate railway. And I didn't know until I read the Railway series that Sir Handel and Peter Sam were once called Stuart and Falcon, and that they were originally in their TV series colours, but were repainted into the Skarloey Railway red. Interestingly, when they do find Duke at the end of Sleeping Beauty and transport him to the Skarloey Railway, in the Railway series, Duke keeps his brown paint, but they repaint and rename Stuart and Falcon to become Sir Handel and Peter Sam and paint them red. And so I really like the kind of evolution of how Stuart and Falcon become these young engines and become experienced over time, because Duke, who they nicknamed Grandpuff, kind of taught them the ways of how to be a really useful engine. And also the backstory that Duke tells them about Smudger, which a lot of Railway series fans don't like how they recharacterized Stanley as Smudger. But I know why, is because Brett Alcroft didn't want to insult the American audience. And it's funny, in the Railway series, Wilbert Awdry kind of makes fun of the rough and tough American culture when he writes Stanley to be the careless engine that Smudger is, because in the TV series, Smudger says, l- l- says, "Listen, Dookie, who worries about a few spills?" However, Stanley in the Railway series says, "Listen, bud, in the States we don't give a dime for a few spills." And they are both turned into a pumping engine generator and they're left at the back of the shed long after the railway gets abandoned. And it's kind of weird that in Sleeping Beauty, Duke doesn't let the rescuers know that Stanley slash Smudger is still behind that shed. It's weird. So it's like Duke got so frustrated with that engine that he just left him to rot there forever, which is kind of mean spirited by Duke, but I find a lot of comedy in that. And so it's weird that in the TV series they use Scarloy and Renee's as kind of stock engines just to populate the railway. But the music in it is really good. The scenery in it is really good. I like how they encapsulate the whole history of the railway in just 2 episodes or two stories in the railway series. But there's also You Can't Win and Bulldog, which was a part of book 5. But you don't really need to watch those 2 episodes in the TV series to get a snapshot of the history of the Mid-Soda Railway, which, if they had gotten more screen time, I would probably rank it ahead of the Skarloey Railway in terms of my favourite railways on Sodor. And a lot of people have also had their thoughts about this episode. I think it was a smart decision to have Thomas as the storyteller, leading viewers into this railway that no one has ever seen before, rather than just going straight into the story about the Mid-Soda Railway, which would have come out of nowhere. I like how they used Thomas to funnel in the viewers, pun intended, into these stories so that they could be adapted. So that was my really great episodes. How much time do we have left? Oh, we've got a couple minutes. And I've only got 4 episodes in the Super Great, so I think I can talk about these really quickly. So, next is the Diesel. Goes without saying, a Boko is a Metropolitan Vickers Diesel Electric Type 2. That's all I can say about this episode. I love Boko. I love the way that Bill and Ben mess around with Boko. I like the way that they confuse the word diesel with a disease. Coughs and sneezels spread diseasels. I really like that comedy between Bill and Ben. It shows their innocence on the railway and their kind of dumbfounded view of the world. And just the fact that they don't care how big you are, they will play a joke on you, whether it's a Kobo wheel configuration diesel or Gordon, who's an express engine. They don't care who they mess around with, kind of like the troublesome trucks. And then Edward comes in at the end of the episode to kind of set them straight and warn Boko about how Bill and Ben behaved themselves on the railway because Bill and Ben got frustrated that Boko stole their trucks. It's a really good character introduction, and the music when they're running back and forth to before when Boko's eyes start rolling is a really nice piece of music. The next episode is Thomas and the Jet Engine, which is the best episode of season 6 by far. It's got that really awesome William Tell overture version of the Runaway theme. And I mean, this got a lot of merchandise, and deservingly so. It's probably the greatest Runaway in the history of the TV series. And the way that Thomas passes Gordon while Gordon's pulling the express and they get to Knapford Station together and they all make jokes about how a steam engine is no match for a jet engine. It's got a lot of fun comedy, and overall, it's just a really fun episode that a lot of people enjoy watching, like myself, who grew up with season 6. Now, the next one is a little bit of a controversial episode. We're going to go with Thomas and Percy's Christmas Adventure, which in the US was called Thomas and Percy's Mountain Adventure. Shining Time Station designated this as a Thanksgiving episode for whatever reason. However, it is clearly a Christmas episode, and in the American dub, narrated by George Carlin, whether you're watching the Shining Time Station version or the VHS version, there's weird continuity with the sound effects and the narration being out of sync. Because in the US dub, they got rid of where the scene where Thomas tells Percy about Santa Claus and Percy confuses his funnel for being a chimney that Santa slides down. They got rid of that because it was a Thanksgiving episode for whatever reason in the US. And so the correct US dub omits that scene and is the first episode of the TV series to not be a 4.5 minute runtime, which is a little bit interesting. But even though it's a Thanksgiving episode in the US, they still have the We Wish You a Merry Christmas song with the Christmas tree in the shed in this episode. And I really like Ulfstead Village because it gets snowed under, and so they have to do a rescue train to help out the villagers, and the villagers wanted to thank the engines, so they decorate at Tidmouth sheds for the seasonal festivities, which is actually, it's probably my favourite Christmas episode, if I will be honest. Just because Ulfstead Village is such a nice scene, and the way you get the interaction between Percy and Harold, and also Terence comes into the fold, Toby comes into the fold as well. It's really all encompassing of the engines and other characters on Thomas's branch line, except for Daisy, because Daisy was not seen in season 3 for some reason. I think it was because Shining Time Station executives didn't like the fact that Daisy was kind of portrayed as a prostitute in season 2. So yeah, if you like the UK dub, you'll enjoy this episode. If you grew up with the American dub, then you probably don't like this episode. The last episode we're going to rank today is Ghost Train. On the date of the accident, it runs again to warn others. Plunging into the gap, shrieking like a lost soul, is Percy the Ghost Engine when he crashes into a lime cart and pretends to be a ghost to scare Thomas. It's my second favourite Halloween episode. The music in this is really good. The way that it's also a Farquhar branch line episode is really good. The whole ghost kind of storyline was the first of the TV series. It was the first episode to talk about the concept of a ghost. And it's a lot of people's favourite Halloween episodes for various reasons, but it's not without its flaws. But I think the spooky nature of this and the gorgeous shot of Percy travelling home before he crashes into the lime cart when he goes over Crow's Farm crossing, that's just some of the best set dressing of season 2, in my opinion. And I really enjoy this episode for a number of reasons, whether it's the music, whether it's the plot, whether it's the scenery. It's just a really good, probably my favourite episode from season 2. And there's a lot of good episodes from season 2. So, that was part 2 of my rankings for my favourite episodes of Thomas and Friends. And the next part we will rank the best of the best. So look forward to that. I'll get to recording that soon. Hopefully will be uploaded before the end of the month. And then in August, we're going to upload another wooden railway layout. So get ready for that. Thank you for all the new subscribers over the past 2 months since I uploaded this. And I'll see you in part 3. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.